My best friend was the gentle, humble type, never competing with anyone. Both of us joined a Fortune 500 company at the same time. I worked hard and eventually pulled her along, and we both smoothly passed the probation period. But she said, honestly, whether I become official or not doesn't matter that much to me. A person shouldn't be too calculating or ambitious. Later, she had an unplanned pregnancy. Her boyfriend refused to pay the bride price and then regretted everything, not wanting to marry her. I dragged her to get an abortion, took care of her meticulously, but she still acted so tolerant and rational, then talked behind my back to my boyfriend. The result, my boyfriend fell for her. In the middle of the night, he left me on the highway, and I was hit by an out-of-control truck thrown into a guardrail. After being reborn, I finally understood. Without me backing her, those days of not fighting for anything yet having everything were over. That graduation season, my roommate Tengin and I both received offers from a Fortune 500 company. The other two roommates in the dorm cheerfully congratulated us. Tengian casually painted her nails and said indifferently, "It's just a job, really, just a way to make a living, nothing to be jealous about." If this company didn't have some prestige, I probably wouldn't have even picked it. Looking at that scene, I was certain I had been reborn. My face, excited just a minute earlier, quickly turned calm. I said, "Well, only after passing probation are we officially in. Thanks everyone for the congratulations." Tengen glanced at me in surprise and half joked, "Tu may no need to act all modest in front of us. You're the one who pulled me to submit our applications. I told you we'd be fine, you worry too much. We just got the offer, and you're already thinking about going official." I simply smiled and said nothing more. On our first day at work, the manager told us, "Right now the market's tough and the company's downsizing. There are 10 of you new grads. After 3 months, we'll only keep 4. So everyone has to give it their all." Everyone looked at each other, stunned. So the final retention rate was only 40%. We thought getting the offer meant we were safe. If we were cut, it'd be embarrassing to say out loud. New grads already have a hard time job hunting, now we even had to face elimination. Everyone started complaining except me. I quietly stood aside. Ting glanced at them, then turned to me pretending to care. "Tume, you're usually the anxious type, you must be stressed now, right?" I remembered her exact words from the last life and gave them right back. People with true talent will be seen eventually. We shouldn't be so obsessed with performance. She froze in place, unable to believe those words came from me. "Tume, are you really not worried?" "Of course not. I'm just learning from you." I smiled back at her, but deep down I knew clearly in this world the weak get eliminated. If you're lazy and let go, you're just handing the opportunity to someone else. Whether you care or not, others can tell. I studied hard, and with the experience from my previous life, I handled everything smoothly. Out of the 10 newcomers, most were proactive except for Tengian, who only knew how to look busy. No one actually knew what she accomplished. One afternoon before work hours were over, Tengian had already started packing to leave. Seeing me still writing a report, she pretended to be concerned again. "Tume, you're still working so hard, but staying late doesn't always mean you're productive. If you're inefficient during the day and always have to work overtime, it's bad for your health. Work isn't everything. With our qualifications, they'll definitely prioritize you and me when it comes to becoming official." In my past life, she also said those same things to me. Back then, I replied, degrees are just tickets to get us through the door. But once you're in, it's your actual ability that determines everything. Everyone else was just as qualified otherwise. How would we have all been accepted? On the surface, Tingyen always appeared calm and carefree, but behind the scenes she would often come to me with questions, just to get me to do her work. In my past life, I had worried she wouldn't make the cut, so I proactively suggested we form a team. I even put her name on the reports I did, helping her ride on my coattails to get retained. But in this life, I simply watched her continue playing the role of the graceful one. When it came time to form groups, the manager let us choose our own teammates. Since joining the company, I had quietly observed everyone I knew who was ambitious, who just sucked up to the boss, and who was arrogantly overconfident. I took the initiative to approach some hard-working people and asked to join their group. Soon, the 10 of us had split into 3 groups. Tengen, with all her fancy words, ended up alone. No one wanted to work with her. Someone who always acted superior aloof and claimed that hard work was beneath her. Everyone could tell she wasn't the type to pull her weight, so no one wanted to deal with that kind of trouble. She looked at me resentfully, Tiu Mei, still hoping I would reach out and pull her in. And sure enough, that's exactly what I did in my past life. But now I acted as if I hadn't heard a thing. I walked with my 2 new teammates straight to the manager to register our group. In the end, the manager had to assign her to the leftover group himself. Luckily, it wasn't mine, yet Tengen still saw herself as superior. She immediately took charge of assigning tasks, choosing the easiest part, preparing the presentation. She dumped the entire task of making the PowerPoint slides on the others. After that, all her attention shifted to dating. While I stayed late writing reports, she was on dates with her boyfriend. When I went on business trips with our supervisor, she was still dating. 3 months later, the list of those officially retained was announced. My name was on it, hers was not. At that moment, she couldn't keep up her elegant act anymore. She stormed into the manager's office and shouted, "Why her and not me?" We went to the same school, I was even a student council leader, but the manager wasn't the soft type. He tossed a stack of reports at her. Te Nien, this department doesn't pay freeloaders. Over the past 3 months, your classmate Tio Mi has received multiple compliments from clients. Everyone said she's performing way beyond intern level. And you. During the presentation, you didn't even understand the content. You clearly didn't prepare at all. You two may have come from the same top university, but the gap between you is huge, furious. Teng Yen yelled, "If you never valued me, why send me an offer in the first place? Now you won't keep me. You're just playing with me." I stood outside the office watching her argue with the manager. There was nothing left of that serene, pure image she always put on. When she left the office, she shot me a glare, gritted her teeth, and asked, "Chume, I heard you were ranked first this round. Your whole group got retained. Why didn't you let me in your group? We were classmates, even best friends. Did it make you sick to see me doing well?" One of my teammates couldn't hold it in anymore and snapped. "Please, you know exactly how you work. Your last group said outright that you dragged everyone down. You didn't do anything, and now you want to join ours. Keep dreaming." I didn't bother being polite either. "Tengian, didn't you say it yourself? It's just a job, just working for someone else, nothing worth caring about. Since you look down on people who work for others so much, maybe you should just wait until you're a boss yourself." Tengian was so furious she couldn't speak. She pointed at me, hand trembling, then grabbed her bag and stormed off. I watched her back as she left and smiled with satisfaction. Not long after, we met again at a class reunion. Tingyan had returned to her usual composed self, speaking gently, her eyes full of that classic green tea look, as if nothing had ever happened. During dinner, a few classmates began defending her, turning their criticism toward me. "Weren't you two best friends, Tu Mei? I heard that at your new company you kept giving Tingyan a hard time, always dumping work on her, and then running to take all the credit with the boss. In the end, she got eliminated because of you. How could you do that? You were so close and you still ganged up with outsiders to bully your own friend. That's just disappointing. Tingyan never even said a bad word about you. She's still defending you now." I looked up toward the center of the room where Tengian sat. She gently said, "Please don't talk about it like that, everyone. To me, it's not her fault. If anything, blame me for refusing to compete maliciously with them. I thought the environment at a big company would be better, but it was really disappointing. Never mind, I won't hold it against Hugh Me for siding with the others. After all, that was her dream. She's working so hard alone in a foreign city, not even a boyfriend, just work to rely on. I understand." After she finished speaking, she even turned and smiled sweetly at me. I was taken aback for a moment. It was as if the person who'd caused that scene in the office earlier wasn't her. After knowing her for 4 years, this was the first time I'd seen her lose control like that. But now, different story. She'd clearly found someone else to speak up on her behalf. I smiled and looked back at her, replying softly, "I don't think a manager at a Fortune 500 company would be blind." Tengen's expression changed instantly. "What do you mean by that?" "Oh, nothing. Everyone enjoy your meal. I've got overtime tonight. I have to work for my future, unlike some people who can still rely on their boyfriend." I knew that line hit her right where it hurt. One, it implied she had no competence. Two, that she lived off a man. For someone who always portrayed herself as noble and independent, like Tengen, how could she swallow that? A few people tried to speak up for her. I didn't bother engaging, I bowed out early and skipped the follow-up activities. A few days later, in our old class group chat, I saw everyone congratulating Ting Yen. I opened the chat and found out she had gotten engaged. She'd be marrying her boyfriend Trin Lu within the year. As for work, she planned to sort that out after getting married and having kids. Her boyfriend, if my memory served me right, was extremely stingy. In our past life, Tengian had constantly complained to me about him, said he rarely took her out to eat, and when he did, they split the bill. His gifts were always dirt cheap and meticulously calculated. Every cent he spent on her was noted down somewhere, and he'd always find a way to make her pay him back. At the time we'd only just started working, salaries were low, yet Trin Lu still frequently invited her on trips, and most of the hotel expenses ended up coming from her pocket. I lost count of how many times I tried to talk some sense into her. "Your boyfriend's broke and stingy. What exactly are you staying with him for?" Back then, Tingyin would get all shy and say, "He's really good looking, makes me look good when we go out. And, well, he's good in bed." She even added, "To me, once you have a boyfriend, you'll understand." I practically exploded. What you think being handsome feeds you, and who cares whether he makes you look good or not? He's not as educated as you, doesn't have a better job. Are you just going to keep supporting him forever? Tengian just smiled and said, "To me, when two people love each other, even drinking plain water feels satisfying. You're too materialistic, you wouldn't understand." Back in college, I had met her boyfriend a few times. He was a student athlete from another school, tall for sure, but his face, let's just say it depended on your taste. There was one time Teng Yang cried to me, saying her monthly allowance had run out, and she'd assumed Trin Lu would treat her during their date. But instead he yelled at her and mocked, "If you don't have money, what are you even doing dating? There are plenty of pretty girls lining up to spend on me." I was fuming. I grabbed her phone, called him directly, and tore into him. I even begged Teng Yen to break up with him. But it wasn't long before they made up. And then Teng Yen turned around and scolded me. "You're way too impulsive. I just wanted to vent a little and you went crazy. Good thing Trin Lu didn't hold a grudge, otherwise you'd have ruined everything. Were you planning to compensate me with another boyfriend, one who's both hot and great in bed?" I was furious. I had defended her, and somehow I was the one getting blamed. From that moment on, I stopped involving myself in their relationship. Later, Teng Yan found out she was pregnant. She went to Trin Lu to talk about marriage. At first, he agreed to offer her family 20,000 yuan as bride price. Teng Yan waited eagerly every day. But after more than a month, her belly already starting to show, Trin Lu still hadn't brought up meeting her family. Teng Yan panicked and came to me for help. She said, "To me, you're my best friend. Please help me." By then, I had already decided to stay out of their mess. "You want to marry your boyfriend? What does that have to do with me?" She put on a pitiful face. "You know me. I'm not with him for the money. But the bride price is something my mum insists on. If I bring it up, he'll take it the wrong way. But if you say something, it'll be easier." I frowned, really not wanting to get involved. She gently stroked her belly and continued, "Look, my belly is already showing. Everyone around me is just waiting to laugh at me. My parents, even my younger brother, won't speak up for me. You're the only one I have left. I too am the kind of person who, once I consider someone a friend, will draw my sword for them without hesitation. And so, once again, I stepped up for her. I went to talk to Trin Lu. His response completely unfazed. My mum said a woman with a swollen belly doesn't deserve a bride price from our family. I slapped him across the face right then and there, then dragged Ting Yen to the hospital for an abortion. I paid for the procedure too. Looking back now, I just want to slap myself a few times. That much money I could have spent it rewarding myself for working hard. I looked at all the congratulations in our class group chat about Ting Yen's engagement and simply shook my head. Right then, I received a message from Ting Yen to me. I won't hold the past against you. I'm getting married soon. I hope to receive your blessing. After all, we're still best friends, right? Those two words, best friends, were like a cursed charm. From the first day we stepped into university, she'd plastered that label on me herself. The moment we moved into the dorm, she clung to my arm like we were old friends. Hey, you look so familiar. I have a feeling we're going to be besties. My parents always taught me if someone treats you well, 1 part you must return it. 3 parts, that good first impression. It led me to years of utter stupidity, even to the point of giving up my life. I replied with just 1 sentence, "Well, I wish you happiness, old friend." Moments later, she called me. "Mei, can you lend me some money? Trin Lu's in a tight spot, and we're short a bit for the bride price. I know you've got savings. Once I get married, I'll definitely pay you back." Oh, so that's what this is about. No wonder you suddenly remembered me. Turns out you were eyeing my money. I texted back, "Sorry, but my money's not for you." And with that, I hung up without hesitation. A few days later, after returning from a business trip, my old dorm mate Trang Q Lam messaged me. "Have you heard Ting Yin's not getting married anymore? I heard she was pregnant, but probably won't keep it." I replied calmly, "Not surprising. Haven't heard a thing. Didn't she love her boyfriend so much? Was hell-bent on marrying him, wasn't she?" Trang Q Lam called me directly. "Tell me, are you and Ting Yin still mad at each other over that work thing? There's nothing to be mad about. If she can't act right, that's her problem. I don't even care anymore," I said with a laugh. "But weren't you two the closest in the dorm, and you didn't know she wasn't getting married?" I couldn't exactly tell her. I had lived a whole past life already, so I just used a different excuse. "Work's been insane lately. I haven't even had time to breathe. I just got back from a trip and saw your message. Everyone's busy with their own stuff. It's normal not to keep in touch. Besides, Tenkin and I have very different life goals." Tranku Lam nodded. "Fair enough. Heard her boyfriend doesn't want to offer the bride price anymore. Tingyen has a younger brother, right? Her whole family was banking on that money to marry him off. But since she's already pregnant, the guy's family doesn't want to pay. His mum's furious said if there's no bride price, just get rid of the baby. So the wedding's off. She and Tingyen are from the same hometown, so she knows everything about that girl's messy family." I thought to myself, so in my past life, I never needed to step in for her at all. Her family had already opposed it. Before I dragged her to the hospital, they had already demanded she get an abortion. They just didn't want to pay. And her money long gone spent on that boyfriend. I once again felt how utterly foolish I'd been back then. Tranquil Lam continued, "So, she had the abortion, she's still unemployed, right? Her boyfriend's useless, and now the wedding's off. I even heard she got kicked out of where she was living. Pretty pitiful, really. But she's super proud, don't go telling anyone about this." I chuckled quietly. "Don't worry, I'm not the gossiping type." But still, the story spread like wildfire through our alumni group. So that's why Tingyen had been so desperate to get married, she got knocked up before the wedding. She always called herself a model woman of the modern era, and look how that turned out. Apparently, the groom's family refused the bride price, so the whole thing collapsed. So now isn't Tingyen about to become a single mum? Well, being a single mum isn't such a big deal these days, it's trendy even. Some people spoke up in her defense. But Tengyun had plenty of enemies. Someone quickly countered, that's someone else's situation. But Ting Yanxi used to say she despised girls who got pregnant before marriage, said it was disgraceful to the family. That came from Ta Lei Hua. She was in our dorm too. Back in our final year, while everyone else was applying for jobs or studying for grad school, Ta Lei Hua wasn't in a rush. She said she wanted to prioritize marriage. Teng Yan, acting all concerned, had asked her, "You're not pregnant, are you?" That's disgusting, so embarrassing. Now she's the one in that exact situation. Of course, Ta Le Hua had to get her revenge with words. I looked at the heated chatter in the group and thought to myself, I wonder if Teng Yan can still keep that usual calm face of hers right now. I didn't expect her to actually call me. The moment I picked up, she demanded, "Tu Mei, why are you spreading my personal business everywhere? What do you gain from this? I'm shocked. What does my situation have to do with you? Like I've got nothing better to do than deliver news for you," she screamed into the phone. "I can't believe you're this kind of person," Trang Q Lam said. "She only told you, I know you're the only one nosy enough to blab. Tio me seeing me suffer, it makes you so happy, doesn't it?" Happy? Of course I'm happy. But what kind of person I am didn't you already know after 4 years of college? When you had no money for food, who used every penny from their hard-earned part-time jobs to top up your meal card? When you fought with your boyfriend, stood out in the rain, refusing to come back to the dorm, then burned up with fever in the middle of the night, who was the one who stayed by your side to take care of you? I used to believe friendship was precious, so I treated you unconditionally well, and you. What have you ever done for me? Just a few sentences, and she was completely silenced. Maybe she finally realized she had barked up the wrong tree. She hung up without another word. I thought that would be the end of it. But just a few days later, I ran into Teng Gian again. Somehow, she'd found where I lived. After work, as soon as I stepped through the gate of the apartment complex, I saw her standing there, face full of pitiful sorrow. "Tu Mei, I really have nowhere else to go. Can I stay at your place for a bit? You've always treated me the best. Everyone else just wants to laugh at me." True, I did treat her the best, but people like her give them an inch and they'll take a mile. They're used to receiving but never grateful, and worse, they'll turn around and bite you. If it weren't for that argument over work, she wouldn't be here now. She only came because she had nowhere left to go. I looked at her and replied coolly, "I only rent a small room, no space for two, sorry." As I turned to leave, she suddenly grabbed my arm, eyes red. "Tiu Mei, are you really going to just stand by and watch me wander the streets? You only care about yourself now." We were classmates for 4 years. When you first entered university, I was the one who helped you carry your luggage. You even said you wanted to be best friends forever. Did you forget? Her gaze drifted toward the stairwell entrance. I followed her line of sight. There was someone else standing there. It was Du Hao, my boyfriend in my previous life. He was one of my clients 3 years older, a young manager in their company. In my past life, I met him through work. A few meetings later, he started pursuing me intensely. His family was middle-class, owned several homes in the city. Compared to me at the time, a lonely new hire, he felt like a whole different world. I once asked him, "What do you like about me?" He said, "I like your energy and drive. All my friends are rich kids cushioned by their families, they never have to try. But you're different. Your ambition is incredibly attractive to me." At first I thought he was just messing around, so I rejected him repeatedly. But that only made him chase harder. Every morning he stood outside my apartment with breakfast. No matter how late I finished work, he waited patiently to walk me home. All my life I'd been the one caring for others. It was rare to be treated with such tenderness. I was moved. I accepted his confession. But we hadn't even lived together for 6 months before Du Hao grew bored. He began comparing me to my gentle, delicate best friend Teng Yan. "You're always so competitive. Why don't you learn from your friend Teng Yan so much better? Girls who are too strong aren't cute anymore. She's graceful, soft-spoken, never aggressive. But you act like a career-obsessed warrior every day. Since when did being a strong woman become an insult in his mouth?" The very traits he once praised as attractive had now turned into flaws. Good thing I hadn't said yes to dating him in this life. That's probably my biggest win so far. Du Hao stepped forward from the corridor when he saw me notice him. Mei. How can you treat your best friend like this? Don't you have any compassion? I never thought you'd be this kind of person. I'm really disappointed in you, I scoffed coldly. And who are you to be disappointed in me? Wow, talk about overestimating your importance. His face twisted in shock and embarrassment. Mei, how can you talk like that? Ting Yan immediately played the victim. It's my fault, I should have asked before coming, but I really have no place to go anymore. Mei is my best friend. I thought she'd be willing to help. She burst into tears, crying, like her whole world had collapsed. Du Hao's heart clearly ached at the sight. Mei, you live alone, don't you? Let her stay just a few days. What harm is there? I shot him a glare. You live alone too. Your house has multiple rooms. Why don't you let her stay? His face flushed deep red. Mei, what are you saying? It's not convenient. Internally, I rolled my eyes. In my past life, he'd left me stranded on the highway just to rush to her side. Did he find that inconvenient then? Me too. Right now, I'm also inconvenient. I didn't want to see their faces any longer. I turned and headed into my room. As the door was about to close, I could still hear them calling out to me. But then I remembered something. I turned back and smiled brightly. Oh, right. Du Hao, she's pregnant. Make sure you take good care of her, okay? His face darkened instantly. The satisfaction I felt immeasurable. In my past life, after I took Ting Yan to get an abortion, she took long medical leave and stayed at my place to recover. Back then, Du Hao was still passionately chasing me. Ting Yan begged me not to tell him about her abortion. I thought she was my best friend, even closer than any boyfriend, so I agreed to keep it secret. Here's the English translation: keeping punctuation intact and removing diacritics from character names with capitalized initials. So Du Hao only knew that she and I were best friends who rented a place together. He had no idea about the deeper reasons. Every time he came to see me, he often ran into Ting Yan. Even when we went out to eat, we would bring her along. Ting Yan always insisted on paying, saying, "How could I let you pay? Every time a girl should know how to take initiative." Mei still has to save money to send home to her family. Let me pay for her, even though she never actually paid. That gesture left a deep impression on Du Hao, making him think she was thoughtful and considerate. Later, when Du Hao and I had conflicts, he even blamed me. It must be your fault. Someone like Ting Yan is so empathetic. I couldn't stand him comparing me to someone else and snapped back, "If you think she's so great, then go date her." He raised his voice in protest. "If she wasn't your best friend, I would've," I shouted. "Would've what? Say it clearly. Completely ridiculous." I should have noticed something was wrong earlier, but unfortunately I was too trusting. That time we had planned a road trip. While we were on the highway, his phone rang. The screen showed important client. He pulled over, got out of the car to take the call. A while later, he came back and simply said, "You'll have to find your own way back. I've got something urgent." But this was the highway. Where was I supposed to find a ride? Yet he left me there without a second thought, alone, on a wide, empty road. Later, when a truck lost control and hit me, my soul felt like it was floating in mid-air. It took a long time before I learned the truth. He didn't go meet a client. He rushed to the hospital for Ting Yan. Ting Yan claimed she'd had an accident and was hospitalized. He was so anxious he abandoned me on the road. Turned out it was just a minor scratch on her leg. I saw them holding hands and finally understood the two of them had been involved for some time. Every time I think back on that, my chest tightens. I was so stupid then. When Du Hao was in love with me, he always proudly talked about his family. I'm serious. My parents are very picky about who I marry. They don't expect the other side to be as wealthy, but they can't have siblings to support, and they have to match in education, career, appearance. He loved me because he was satisfied with my looks and my job. I believed in his excellence, so I constantly worked hard to be worthy of him, to prove myself. He said he'd introduce me to his parents and friends, but from beginning to end, he never did. In my past life, after Teng Yen broke up with her boyfriend, she clung to both me and Du Hao. In front of him, she'd say, "To me, you know her, she's always chasing a glamorous life. Why else would she try so hard?" But I'm different. I don't ask anything of my future boyfriend. I'm not after money or power. Then she'd glance at me, then at Du Hao, with a sweet smile. I didn't mean anything by that. Du Hao, don't misunderstand. Wasn't she just implying that I was materialistic? Du Hao said nothing, but his attitude toward me gradually changed. Teng Yen had been hurt before by loving a poor man, so this time she set her sights on Du Hao, someone rich. But did she think she could really capture Du Hao? No way. Just imagining the day Du Hao finds out she's pregnant with another man's child on their very first meeting already made me feel satisfied. I don't know when the two of them left. All I know is after that day, I had a rare moment of peace. Until one day, I arrived at the company building and saw Teng Yen stepping out of an Audi. She was dressed to the nines with flawless makeup, looking nothing like the weak girl from before. When she saw me, her face lit up with surprise. "Tu Mei, is that really you?" The car owner stepped out after parking, none other than Du Hao. Looking at the two of them, I found it amusing, a cold smile forming in my heart. "Yeah, they really are a match," Du Hao said. "Tu Mei, let me introduce you. This is my personal assistant, Miss Tay. I have an appointment with your department manager to discuss a project. If I'm not mistaken, you're the project lead, right?" "What are you standing around for?" I led them into the company building. This was the first project the manager had assigned solely to me since I started working a media proposal for one of Client A's products. It wasn't a huge job, but it was extremely important to me. Client A just happened to be Du Hao's company. Initially, he wasn't the person in charge. In my past life, he was pursuing me and managed to snag the project lead position. The project succeeded easily. But now he was the lead, and he brought Teng Yen along, definitely his doing. As soon as we arrived at the company, Du Hao went to speak with the manager, leaving me alone with Teng Yen. I pulled out the proposal I had carefully prepared, explaining everything in detail until my mouth was dry. I hadn't even had a sip of water before she started nitpicking every little thing, dissatisfied with all of it. To me, she smiled gently. I just became the personal assistant to the general director, so naturally my standards for partners are going to be a bit higher. You know me. Normally I'm not like this, but when it comes to work, I can't let emotions get in the way. Hope you understand. I glanced at her now flat stomach. Clearly the baby was gone. I smiled back and said, "He helped you cover the costs. Impressive. You found a new place quickly too." Teng Yen's expression shifted continuously before she let out a cold laugh. "Why make a big deal out of nothing, to me? I'm working with him now and my salary is double what it was at the old company. I've said it before, capable people get recognized eventually. Competing is pointless for you. After all this time, is that the best you can do with your proposal? Since we're old friends, I'll take it to Director Du and get back to you later." She was party A, I was party B with different positions. I naturally couldn't say anything. 3 days later, Teng Yen reported back, "Director Du isn't satisfied with your proposal. I tried to put in a good word, but it didn't help." "Sorry, Tiao Mei." I asked for the proposal back and she replied lightly, "Oh, wasn't that design tailored specifically for us? Since we're not accepting it, keeping it would be useless. I'll handle it for you." Unexpectedly, a month later, their company's new product launch campaign had almost entirely copied my proposal. Even the slogan was identical. It was outrageous. I knew they were trying to trample all over me. Fortunately, I had prepared in advance. I had already presented the main points to my manager. Though he didn't remember all the details, I had proof. This life, I learned a lesson: always leave yourself a way out. The moment I walked into the private meeting room with Teng Yen, I had already started recording from the device in my bag. My entire presentation, from concept slogan to the source of inspiration, had been recorded in full. With this evidence, I had enough to take them to court. After all, they were a Fortune 500 company. My company's legal department wasn't weak either. The matter was quickly settled. Their new product wasn't outstanding to begin with, and we seized the chance to launch a media offensive, which caused their stock to plunge a 30% drop in just 3 consecutive days. At that point, Du Hao could no longer sit still and came to see me again. This time he brought Teng Yan along, tears streaming as always. "Tio Mei, it's my fault this time. I really never saw your proposal. I remember during our internship we talked about a similar idea, and I never expected you to use that suggestion of mine." I turned to Du Hao and asked directly, "You really believe what she's saying?" He avoided my gaze and didn't respond directly. He only said, "To me, I know you're competitive, but Teng Yan worked really hard too. Can we let this go? Can you ask your legal team to drop the case?" I couldn't hold back my laughter. "You people really have no shame. You stole my idea, didn't even apologize, and now you're here teaching me to be magnanimous. I truly want to know where you got the nerve, right after saying that I reported them to the police for harassment." When the police took them away, Teng Yan sobbed miserably. "Tio Mei, do you really hate me that much?" I just wanted to roll my eyes to the heavens. My career was progressing steadily, my abilities recognized, and my boss trusted me more and more. My salary had doubled. I moved into a spacious apartment and was no longer disturbed by those two. According to my co-workers, Du Hao resigned because of this incident. He and his personal assistant had moved into a one-bedroom apartment near our company. Quite a few people had seen them together. I ran into them once. Du Hao hadn't changed, same character, same flaws. In the past life, he betrayed me while loving me. In this life, he loved Teng Yan, and the result was no different. One day after work, I passed a street and saw a middle-aged woman dragging Teng Yan by the hair across the pavement, shouting loudly. The woman was dressed elegantly with an arrogant air, looked very familiar. Turned out she was Du Hao's mother, the one he used to mention as some big figure. She gripped Teng Yan's hair and yelled, "You still have the face to cling to my son? I've looked into your family. With a background like that, you think you can reach my family's level. You got close to Du Hao. Just for his money, didn't you? And now you're threatening me with the child. You think I'm scared? Teng Yan's hair was a mess." Makeup smudged, crying as she spoke, "Auntie, I truly love him. Even if he had nothing, I'd still love him." The woman sneered and pulled a few sheets of paper from her bag. "A proper lady engaged once, had an abortion, and even used a child to threaten a man. Trash like you thinks you're good enough for my family. Dream on." Teng Yan turned to the crowd for help. At first, a few people looked sympathetic, but when they heard she had used a baby to force marriage, their attitudes shifted instantly. Everyone folded their arms and watched in silence. She looked around frantically for someone to help, then spotted me and shouted, "Tu Mei, someone's bullying me. Help me, please." All eyes turned toward me, but I just stood there coldly unmoved. Then someone in the crowd said, "Call her boyfriend. If a man caused this mess, a man should clean it up." Another person whispered, "She's pregnant after all. If something really happens, that's 2 lives we're talking about. Not a joke." But did anyone remember if that baby was even real or just another bargaining chip? The middle-aged woman shot a look of pure disdain at the person who spoke. "You want to play mediator, or are you with her trying to make a profit in the middle? Let me tell you, not a chance." The man immediately shut his mouth. Teng Yan had no strength to fight back and lost quite a bit of hair in the struggle. As more people around started filming with their phones, she finally snapped and grabbed the woman's hair in return. "Whether you accept me or not, that's your problem. But the baby in my belly belongs to the Du family, and it has inheritance rights. When the assets are split, won't my child get a share? If you won't accept me, I'll sue your whole family." It was truly a scene. Eventually, someone kind-hearted called the police. Only when the officers arrived were the two of them separated. Both looked completely disheveled. I watched from afar, finding it all quite amusing. Wasn't this the woman Du Hao used to boast had such great manners and upbringing, and now she looked like any other market hag? Then Tingyan lunged into the crowd and grabbed my arm. She's my best friend. She has to come too. I looked at her calmly and said clearly, "Sorry, I don't know you. I'm just here to watch the show." With that, I turned and walked away, afraid of getting tangled up again. Later, I heard from others that Tingyan had clung to another rich man and even pretended to be pregnant before marriage. The other family didn't believe her and insisted on a checkup. Tingyan's family, thinking she really was pregnant, took the opportunity to ask for 1 million in betrothal gifts. But after the test, it was revealed she wasn't pregnant at all. Not long after, someone from our old classmates group mentioned me, Tu Me Yu and Tingyan used to be so close. Why don't you talk to her, stop her from ending up like this? Since my rebirth, I rarely spoke in that group, but this time I replied one final sentence: different values, different paths. I'll walk the bright road. She can keep stumbling on her narrow bridge. Then I left the group for good. Truth is, sometimes the simpler the relationships, the better. Think a little more for yourself, worry a little less about others, and let go of the need to save everyone. That's the real way to respect each person's fate. Thank you for watching Ken's Stories. I hope you enjoyed a relaxing and captivating storytelling experience. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support gives me the motivation to create more amazing content.